Hey guys, it's me, Iryna Wood, and your favorite show, What Everybody Wants to Know. And today we have a challenging topic. We'll talk about glory, about pros and cons about it. And the name of the show today is Fame is a... By the way, before I present my dear guest to you, I would say where I have stolen this cool name. I deal and I do work as a co-host on the podcast Fame is AJ Penza and Michael Gavino. They are my favorite guys. And today I decided, when I invite this special woman, I have to use this special name. So welcome. Today is my guest, a beautiful, stunning woman, inside, outside. Why? Because I know her personally, what kind of person she is, and she is a huge talent in the industry of PR, which is very interesting and full of secrets nowadays here in the United States and all over the world. And her name is Cari Nogas. Hey, Carie.
How are you?
I'm
So
good.
lovely
How
to
are
be
you?
on. Thank you.
Thank
Doing
you.
fantastic today.
Look, you're from New York, but you sound so calm, so smooth. How do you manage that?
Well, I'm not very calm and smooth all the time, I will say. I feel like there is such an eclectic energy in New York City, but I do find time to step away sometimes. I'm currently at my parents' house in Connecticut, which is surrounded by nature and beauty and just peace and calm. So that definitely helps to kind of step outside that box sometimes.
Carrie, you have a very cool name. Sorry for using cool, but I love your name, No Gas, when I heard it first time. And you're absolutely opposite. You're a person who's full of gas, full of fire, full of energy. So tell me, what's your trick? What gives you energy?
Thank you. It makes me laugh a little bit because growing up, I always resented the name and people would make fun of it. But it's so fun to have a beautiful compliment from you. And I thank you so much for having me today. Energy that I have comes from so many different places. It could be from the passion behind what I'm doing. It comes from the incredible people that I get to work with, the incredible projects that I work with. There's so many different components that add up all together. And you mentioned New York City. I think a lot of it has to do, this energy comes from having this beautiful energy all around me at all times. So there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that make this come together for me.
When we are thinking about professions, let's say when you were a little girl, you played a doctor and you grow up and you become a medical person or a nurse, for example. Uh, Anything like that, or you played with the dolls and now you grow up, you become a designer. How did it happen to you? What did you do in your childhood? What did you dream about? How did it come to your mind to become a PR professional?
I mean, I used to pretend I was a teacher when I was younger. I would play and I would have my pretend classroom and I would have my worksheets out into the world. But how that transitioned to PR is a really interesting question. I feel like the older I got, the very early stages, it was more about wanting to teach people and help people. And then as I grew older, I understood the world a little bit better. And that also meant seeing these different industries and what people can be and do with their lives. So I think that eventually projected into the space of wanting to pursue public relations.
But in your professional and human opinion, of course, what kind of person should be to thrive in PR industry?
Absolutely. I think that the kind of person that will absolutely thrive in public relations, they need to be incredibly resilient. They need to have a lot of endurance. You will hear the word no a lot more than you'll hear the word yes in this industry. So you have to know how to keep moving forward without taking it personally. Beyond that, PR professionals, you should be a natural storyteller. You should be very curious, not only about the world, but also clients that you're working with. And I think that you definitely have to be organized as well. So these are a lot of components that go into building a really good PR professional.
The other thing that came to my mind, people who are dealing with camera, for example, if you're standing, if you're a videographer or camera person, you would never go in front of the camera. Maybe you could, but it takes time to overcome your fear being in front of the camera. In your case, you deal with a lot of celebrities, you deal with a lot of people in the United States and overseas as well, and
Mm-hmm.
you push them. You know exactly how to make them famous and important in this world, in their professional industry. What about you? Did it take time for you to see yourself differently? Okay, now it's my time to work on my name.
Yes, it's funny you asked that because earlier in my career, I remember one of the women that was a director in the company I was working for used this phrase along the lines of, our job is to put people on camera and we are supposed to be behind the camera. So I adopted this mindset. And for many, many years, I always said to my clients, no, 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 I don't want to be anywhere near the camera. This is for you. My job is to make you famous. But eventually I woke up and I realized, no, wait, I should be very proud. I should be promoting myself. I should get on the camera. I love public speaking. I love speaking in front of audiences. Why am I not doing these things? And camera is a whole different category, yes. But with time, I feel like if people kind of just have that confidence, they can do anything they put their minds to.
You know, nowadays with AI is taking over and social media is so important. Sometimes I know a few good professionals who are my friends and clients, and they're unbelievable, but they have zero time, especially living in New York in a very streaming city and streaming world, of course, for their own individual accounts. And of course, it's some kind of misrepresentation because when people want you as a professional, they want to see your Instagram. From the other side, I can understand
Yes.
because you're into your profession, you're into your clients, into your projects, and you have no time for, just presenting. Sometimes people are doing fake accounts as well, live, because you're living the life, not showcasing the life.
Yes, I've seen that all too often, and I've experienced that myself actually, because I'm someone who takes such great care in my work, and I'm very, very focused, and I tend to be a perfectionist sometimes, which it's good, but then it also kicks me in the butt sometimes. But when it comes to my own social media, I love curating it and making beautiful aesthetic curations on the feeds itself, the social media accounts, but it is so much work, and I understand exactly what you're saying to have to put all of that work into having a personal account, professional accounts, working accounts for your clients and everything. It does become a little bit oversaturated, but I always say work smarter, not harder. And so, whether that means bringing someone on to help you with the editing process that you can use for your social media in order to promote yourself, or whatever that means, that maybe there's certain things that you're struggling with that you know that you can do them, but it takes you a little extra time. So, it's always about, I think it's great to ask for help and be able to outwardly know when you can use extra hands. It doesn't mean that you have to lose the authenticity in it, but it just means that it's an extra someone to kind of help move it along.
Carie, you own two businesses. You own a
Mhm.
PR/marketing company, and you help with that, and you own this school. And my first question would be about PR straight. When you work with people, could you open up a little bit? Because nowadays it's a huge misrepresentation and a very bad image of publicists sometimes, because when you see some Instagram advertisement and think, okay, maybe this person will help me, you reach out to the girl and she sends you a list with pricing. Well, okay, Forbes costs this amount of money, Harper's Bazaar costs this amount of money. I know you don't do that. You don't do any paid PR. You do gain authority PR, which is smooth, organic. Could you open up things behind the scenes, what actually PR can give you, how it can help good grown professionals nowadays?
Absolutely. Yes. I am not a big believer in paid opportunities when it comes to PR. I am strictly all about just organic outreach and organic, having stories come to fruition organically. And what that means is, coming up with a great story idea, knowing how to package it nicely, and getting it over to journalists or reporters based on what they write about or who they're writing about, and going from there. But yes, in my experience, I've seen a lot of these pay to play opportunities, and it turns me off a little bit, I will say. But when I'm approaching a new client and kind of starting a new journey with them, it's, every approach is so tailored to what the client needs and what they want, what they're looking for. Are they trying to sell a product? Are they trying to launch a product or launch a company? Each variable is so different in the way that you need to approach it. So those that what you mentioned in terms of kind of saying I can get you this article for this much, that seems to be a copy and paste approach sometimes, when in reality I like to kind of go in, look beneath the surface a little bit, and then see exactly what needs to happen, because you could easily go to the Forbes and big publications of the world, but if there's something under the hood that you're noticing isn't quite right, you should address that first, basically. If the messaging isn't cohesive, if there's certain kinks that need to be worked out or something along those lines, it's always good to kind of look at the brand inside out, then to present it to the outside world.
I found PR to be a very psychological profession because you have to kind of feel the person, the personality, read them through and understand their needs. Maybe not the even or so visible to them or clear enough, but you can feel what the subject or person is about.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's I can't decide if I'm a publicist or a psychologist half the time in my industry, but I always like to say, in PR, I think it's so important to always be 10 steps ahead, no matter if it's with your client or with the world. I mean, it could be something as simple as foreseeing trends that are happening in the world, but it could also be 10 steps ahead of knowing your client well enough to be able to approach them and be proactive in your communication, so that you're not caught in a mess of something that happens all of a sudden. But it's a big psychology game a lot of the time. I find that especially in the industry, a lot of it is dealing with a third party person, in that sense that you are not in 100% control of the results that you are delivering. Yes, I will say when you are doing paid articles, you can be in control, but that's not the point of what we're doing here. But you can be best friends with an editor or a reporter, and they might be too busy with deadlines. They might have some other reason as to why they might not be able to say yes to writing a story about you. So ultimately, that control is not in your hands sometimes. But then you just got to get back on the horse and think about it, and then move forward again, and how to kind of mold the story in a better way that could fit in terms of timing and other variables. But I think psychology definitely plays a very big part in this whole thing.
I would throw a small psychological joke. I would say comparing, yeah, I could compare paid PR to a marriage with benefits when people are married for money. So yes, of course you can fall in love on the way and your audience
Yes.
maybe will like you and hopefully all the rest of the life and your promotion will be organic, but not always happens. Okay. So better not to
Yeah,
risk with a bad
exactly.
advertisement. And speaking about your school, which is absolutely outstanding idea, and I have to open up our little secret that you're my unbelievable mentor. I could even dream for a better person, for this position in my life. You're my guide,
Thanks so
and
much.
I'm happy every single day to study from you. But tell our audience a little bit, people who would love to reach you out from overseas and here in the United States, besides writing articles, reach out to the journalist, besides publications. What else do you teach in your school? Which subjects do you touch?
Oh gosh, yes, it's a loaded question. There's so many layers to the PR world. And I think, a lot of times, a lot of clients that I'll meet, or prospective clients, or just general people, a lot of them don't understand necessarily the true in and outs of the PR world. There's so many different layers to it, and it could be anything from starting with the basics of learning the industry, between what kind of publications you're working with. You have broadcast channels, you have podcasts, you have newspapers, you have magazines, but then you work your way up to just kind of learning how to do simple press release formatting and pitching and how to build media lists. But beyond the editorial realm of PR, there's so many other categories, because the whole point is that we're trying to make a brand known, or we're trying to make a personality known. And so that can extend beyond just having an article. That can extend beyond just having an article in a magazine or a newspaper. It could involve award submissions. There's so many different award companies that are out there today. And it could be something about focusing on a campaign that you're doing. It could be a technological award that you're submitting for. It could be an entrepreneurial award. So those are always helpful in boosting credibility. You also have events. Events are a big piece of the puzzle as well, because if you're doing a product launch or a company launch, it's always great to have some kind of event where people can experience and be hands-on, or see a product, or it's a good way to bring people together on site, whether it's a pop-up event or something along the lines of that. There's also a big component that involves partnerships. So maybe it's like-minded brands that we want to reach out to that we could do a partnership with, and this becomes a larger collaboration that we can use both wheelhouses to kind of push our messaging out through the channels that we have to our different audiences and create a bigger machine out of what our brand is just as a standalone. So a lot of it, bringing in partners that could be valuable to promoting the message and promoting the brand more.
That's unbelievable. And you teach how to do it all for free, naturally and organically. That's
Yes,
fantastic.
absolutely.
Great, great, great idea. And Carie, you know what else I want to ask? So you teach students. First category is probably people who want to do self-promotion, but also there is probably a category of people who decided to make their own profession and could work with the other brands and businesses. Is it correct?
Yes, correct. And I think that, I think both are essential, and both, there's no right or wrong answer, whether you're promoting somebody else or you're promoting yourself. And I think we saw this huge shift, especially during COVID, where we're seeing a lot more people start to represent themselves in the world more and more. So, the way I see it though is that whether you're representing yourself or representing a client, the principles are essentially the same. And if you know your value, you can tell your story with confidence, and you're strategic in the way that you're putting the messaging out into the world. It doesn't necessarily matter if it's for yourself or for a client. It's as long as you have the tools and you know how to kind of package it up nicely, then it could be a success to anyone who tries it.
You know, Carie, here on Whatever Everybody Wants to Know show, we touch challenging psychological conversations and topics. And I wanted to ask you a thing. When you have such a diverse range of clients as a PR person, as your own publicist, and people reach out to you, and maybe one person is snobbish, the other person doesn't speak good English, the other person is extremely bored or limited or have mental blocks, and, so many things can come into your life. How actually do you develop emotional intelligence to be flexible with such a variety of people?
Yes, it's a very loaded question. And I've worked with people all over the spectrum of what you just mentioned here. I mean, I've had people who will call you every 2 seconds. I've had clients call me at 3 in the morning when they're in Japan needing something. I've had very demanding or aggressive people that I've had to work with previously. But, it's always an interesting component and piece to the puzzle. We were talking about psychology and how it plays into PR. And I think this is also a very, very big important thing to consider. I think, but when I'm teaching people about how to kind of work with different personalities, I always say that the relationship with the client sometimes is arguably, it's often more important than the actual work itself. And the emotional intelligence is not built, it's built with honesty, I think. It's built with communication, over communication, I should say. And also, most importantly, knowing how to protect your own mental space and knowing when to kind of separate the work from the life. I'm sorry, yeah, work and life, and have that balance basically. Many clients, as I said, come in not right really aware of the process of PR and how it works. So, I can recognize this upfront. And if I notice that they might not necessarily understand what we're doing or the steps or that are involved that going into the whole process and everything, that's okay. But I can notice this, and I can say, okay, let me take a step back, and I'm going to over communicate with them. I'm going to explain the process. I'm going to explain the steps very clearly, and I'm going to set realistic expectations here. Again, since it's an industry where we can't always 100% guarantee that you're going to get all the press articles in the world. Of course, that's our goal, but we cannot always guarantee that. So I like to set very clear expectations with our clients going into relationships, and I like to remind people that to see, at the end of the day, our clients are human beings as well. So if you can learn how to kind of take that wall down and take the intimidation away, if they're approaching you really aggressively, we have to remember that they are human beings that also have dreams, and they have stress, and they have insecurities. And so you have to understand their energy, but know how to not carry it necessarily. But I mean, I've had plenty of my stressful moments. I've had plenty of moments where I've had to learn, it's okay to say no, but not a flat out no, but is there a solution? I like to say no along with a solution to present. So if you're feeling yourself overly stressed with clients that are coming at you constantly, It's okay not to say yes every time. It's okay to say, hey, I'm on these other 5 deadlines for you right now. It'll take about this much time, and set certain expectations. But speaking to those stressful moments, though, I will say there's a funny saying that we have in the industry. If all else fails, we have to remind ourselves that it's PR, not ER.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting. You should be American to understand it, you know.
Yes, yes.
um, yeah, Carie, and again, I understand that not every person. We speak today about the fame, about pros and cons of it, and I realized that you deal with a lot of people. Probably many of them became famous. What was maybe biggest disappointment, maybe with no names if possible? Did you see people when they got what they wanted but they couldn't handle it being famous?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen both extremes. I've seen a lot of people flourish, and I've seen them step up into the spotlight, and this allows them to really push through to share who they really are and then their true selves, and they embrace vulnerability and put themselves out there, and they're thriving as a result. But then I've also seen the opposite end of the spectrum where people burn out very, very badly, and this constant need of needing to be on and upholding a certain public persona and the way that people perceive them, it can really be exhausting, and it can chip away at your mental health some of the time. So I have seen both sides of it, and I have seen really, I mean, I think that it can reshape someone's personality. I think that, you know, if you're very grounded in yourself, there's a way to know how to step back, know to have self care. And some people don't really know how to draw that line. And sometimes ego will step in a lot of the time. And that brings them to becoming this person that they may or may not be, or maybe they don't want to be. But it can get very exhausting. And I've seen really bad cases where, fame becomes an addiction. And that could also lead to other addictions that are stemming beyond this, like other vices that people are starting to grab for. I mean, we've seen it in the case of public celebrities all the time. It's hard to watch and it's really sad. But I also love when we speak to the psychology of things, like what is someone hiding behind their wall? What is the true vulnerable thing that they need, and how can we break through to them to help them if they're in this point of burnout, essentially?
In my eyes, when people get power, and doesn't matter, it came in their life in the shape of money or glory or
Yes.
fame, or any other success, I think they become what they truly are and have been all that years.
Hmm.
And because they just showcase their true selves. If you can handle it, you can handle it. If you're ready for it, you are ready for it. Because if you've been kind
Yes, I
and
agree.
smart and ready for it, you'll be more shining, more giving, more caring, more
Yes.
love and personality, and now for entire world. So use it wisely. If you're influential person in your own niche, don't put it down, because fame, it's one way ticket. You wake up famous tomorrow and that's it. It can come to you, but what you're going to do with it?
Want to learn how to love yourself and build up healthy relationships with yourself and others? Download Gemini Miami. It's your one-stop shop for all self-discovery tools with access to the community of like-minded individuals.
And
I
you
agree.
said about no's. You said you felt that sometimes people hear no's. What about you? To what kind of client would you say, no, that's not my person? That's a red flag.
Mm. Oh gosh. Well, I always like to approach any kind of relationship, I in a very positive mind with a positive mindset, right? I give people the benefit of the doubt, and I kind of go in with an open conversation. And if I find that there's immediate pushback on certain things right off the bat, even before we've started our work together, that's something I might take a step back and say, is this energy that I need right now? It's not necessarily like that we could work together, couldn't work together, but you have to really assess that when you're starting a relationship with somebody. But when you're in a relationship with somebody, like with a client, and you're in deep at a certain point, when it comes to pushing back and saying no, I should say it this way. I don't like to flat out say no to a client ever. Obviously, we're working together, we have a working relationship. I'm not just going to come and say, no, I'm not doing something for you. But if it's coupled with either an explanation of all of the other reasons as to why maybe that's not the best idea to do something right now, if they're pushing for an event, but in reality the event makes no sense to have and spend money on, for example, there's a nice way to explain this to them. Or if there's, I always like to if I have to kind of push back and say no in a way, I always like to have a solution that I can replace instead. So I'm trying to think of some specific examples, but it's hard and it's intimidating to have to stand up, but it also is important to set very clear boundaries with clients, because if not, then you're going to overextend yourself and exhaust yourself and get to a point where it's not healthy for you and therefore not healthy to the client and the relationship you have with them either. So as soon as we can kind of recognize our breaking points and know how to set those boundaries, it's so important with the relationships with the clients.
What do you consider to be the dark side of glory?
The dark side of glory. Oh gosh. I mean, I've seen dark sides. I've seen very happy sides. I have seen very, very happy sides, but the dark side can be very intense. I have seen tremendous burnout. I've seen people lose their sense of self, the constant need of being visible, always being on, replying to everyone reaching out. You're always having to just be in a constant mode of turned on, basically. And especially if there's like a lot of backlash or negative comments, it can be really mentally debilitating sometimes. And I think, especially, as we see technology playing a bigger role in our lives more and more, cyberbullying, stalking, cancel culture, they're
Yep.
all really, really big threats and can dismantle a career in just a matter of a second. So anyone chasing fame, I totally agree with you. And I love what you said about if you're ready for it, you shine. But some people who are not necessarily ready for it, or if they're chasing fame for the wrong reason, perhaps, it's important to understand that it really does require a lot of boundaries and a lot of self-care and a lot of time, just as much as it requires the ambition that you're putting into it.
Recently my account started to grow and I'm promoting it the app. I'm promoting myself as an expert. And I have to tell you, it's good and bad about it, because from one side, yes, of course, it feeds my ego and heals my soul. And I understand I'm useful. More people can reach out to me because they know, okay, I have my trustful connection with my audience already. It's growing and growing more and
Yes.
more. But from the other side, I felt like I received negative, messages, and not kind of stalking, but very similar to that. And I have to tell you, it's unpleasant. It's in this unsafe world, you don't feel great about it, definitely.
Yeah.
And besides comments sometimes, or and ladies and gentlemen, that I think you should have your own ladies. Why you're texting me? What kind of person? Because I've been promoting some brand, and
Yes.
the guy started to tell me something about mascara. I think, take care of your wife, how she's putting mascara in her lashes, if you have her at all. But from your PR publicist experience, how would you say, how would we overcome this fear of being famous / desire of being famous, and how to deal with hatred and jealousy of our own audience?
Yes, I mean, it's a really tough question, honestly, because I would be lying if I said that sometimes these comments and the hurtful sayings and negative dynamics that people outwardly project to you, of course, it can be hurtful. But and as many times as I tell myself, don't let it get to you, don't let it get to you. I am human. Of course, it can get to us sometimes, but I do always remind myself that a lot of the time these aggressive behaviors are really stemming from that person's insecurities. And when you're able to kind of take a step back and realize, maybe they're jealous, maybe they're seeing a successful, beautiful woman and they're so angry at where they are in their life, perhaps, or I mean, it could be a slew of different reasons, but usually it's stemming from some sort of insecurity. But when you can step back and notice that, it kind of allows for you to have more space for empathy for them, and basically just saying, okay, this is where they are. I'm proud of myself. I'm going to keep my head up. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to do what I'm doing because I love doing it for myself. And I have a lot of positive encouragement around me. If you have that support system, friends, family, whoever is rooting for you and cheering for you in the stands, that those are the people that you should be paying attention to, and not the ones that are trying to bring you down, because it has more to do with them than it does with you at the end of the day.
Of course, we all want to be loved and accepted and to get beautiful comments under
Yes.
our reels, but there is another side of it. You know, we're not $100 to be loved and appreciated by everybody. So, Carie, tell me, what's your personal win? Even if you can't mention the names of the projects or people, but what's your best ever project you remember
Gosh.
forever?
I have so many fun wins. It's like, oh gosh, I mean, some that come to mind immediately right now. There's been so many throughout the 13, 14 years that I've been in the industry now. But one of my biggest fun accomplishments for me was I was working with a big hospitality company, and they were going through their seed round for funding, and we were doing a very strategic approach around press for that. And we got this beautiful article in Rob Report, which is a really,
Wow.
really widely read publication. And it actually brought an investor to their company who invested tons of money and backed them in support of what they were building. So that was, I'll never forget that. That was a really fun one to me, because it was helping actually not only build the credibility, but build the business itself. There's also been, I remember, I always, there's something called the placement high in PR that we say, where after working with a reporter, when you're first kind of young and green in the industry, when you secure a big press placement, especially the glossy magazines were always the best ones, or a newspaper piece that's printed, it's called a placement high. And you get this feeling, there's just like the endorphins just build up in your body so much. And when I started kind of pushing more into international publications, I've built this incredible roster of, like, I have pieces from Vogue Japan in languages I can't even, I don't know what the article says. Of course, I translate it, but at first glance, I'm just so excited to see it in print in a different language, or, all these, European publications, Asia, you name it, Australian publications. I was doing coordinating interviews with an Australian music artist last year, and they were based in LA. I was based in New York, and they were from Australia. So I'm having to deal with 3 time zones here. It was the most complicated thing I've done in a very long time. So something like that even is a big success for me these days, to coordinate these areas from around the world and getting people's names out there. I think every time I've had a big event that's really successful, it's so much stress leading up to it, planning every single piece of it, from the guest list and the invites and the vendors and the run of show, like photography, inviting press and speaking with them on site, and making sure that we have enough quality time with them speaking to the client. And then once the event is finally over, I've always looked at those as some of the biggest successes as well, because it's interesting to devote yourself to something so big, but then see it to beautifully blossom like that. It's just such a win.
You know what is great and unbelievable about PR? Because a lot of people misinterpret and misunderstood this term, and they think that PR, or dealing with a professional publicist, is just to gain your glory and fame, and that's it, or maybe maximum backlinks on your website. But in reality, if you do it with a proper professional, you can get so much. You can get your indirect sales, you can get incredible networking all over the world, and as well, as you mentioned before, fundraising. So it can be even your
Yes.
financial opportunity with a potential investment in your business and sponsorship. Yeah, please.
Yes. Oh, one thing to add to that. I always do like to ask the question up front to anyone that I'm working with. What is your goal? What is your specific goal? And sometimes you can tell in the way that they answer that they're really kind of pushing for ego part of it, and it
Yeah.
makes me laugh a little bit. And it's okay. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer to what your goal is. It's just that I like to know going into our work together, because it's super helpful. I've had a client that I've worked with very recently who he literally just said to me, "I want one New York Times article and that's it." I'm like, great, perfect. He's like, I don't even care about the project. I want a story about the blood, sweat, and tears that I've put into this, and what it's doing for the neighborhood and all of this stuff. And so, I really appreciated his honesty, but it makes our job a little bit more streamlined. And I don't want to say easier. It's never easy, but it streamlines it in a way, because if people are coming to me saying they really just want to focus on sales or something, but it's really about the ego, it might take a different approach to the strategy that we're implementing, because launching a product is different than driving sales, is different than product placement, is different than expert commentary, is different than you name it. So there's so many ways to approach it. And I was laughing a little bit about the ego thing, but I like knowing that up front so that we know how to just get you what you want.
You see, both our professions, they deal with ego. They say in counseling, you have to have zero attachment to your client, especially if you ought to work with your family member or friend. Sometimes happens. You have to set up your personal boundaries and forget that you
Yes.
have any kinds of feelings toward these persons outside of the session. What about PR niche? Do you have any special attachments to your clients, and how do you overcome it?
As you were saying that out loud about not having attachments, I'm like cringing a little to myself, because I find that most 99% of the time, I value the relationship so much with my clients. And like I said, I think that arguably the way that you work with your client and manage them is more important than the work in some ways, because it's about, you're taking on their passion, you're learning them, you're learning what they're building for themselves, and you have to inhibit this and like tell it to the world, essentially. But I feel like a lot of the time I have a lot of my clients become family to me, I guess I should say. I just got off the phone with a client about an hour before you and I hopped on, and he was in the car with his son, and he was asking me about my brother's new baby, and telling me these beautiful personal anecdotes. And a lot of my clients have become family to me, and it's not that doesn't mean there needs to be boundaries, because I know when to kind of toggle that switch on. But I mean, then I actually had a recent example with a friend I had as a client, and it does blur the boundary, the lines get blurred a little bit. And so, it becomes a little bit harder when you work with friends, but I still found myself saying, you know what, let's sit and have a conversation here. I feel more comfortable having this conversation on a more of a vulnerable level because of our relationship, but I'm still going to move forward full force with our relationship as my client. But it definitely sways the situation based on the background that you have with people. But I do find a lot of them are family to me, which doesn't play along with your psychologist, the mindset of cutting it off.
Carie, I like to end conversations with my dear guest in a beautiful way, with an inspirational note to our audience. Please tell something inspiring and motivational to those people who dream to embrace PR profession, or maybe promote themselves or their brands or other people, and how they can reach out to you or maybe become a member of your school.
Absolutely. Oh, this makes me very happy. So I my advice to people is that there's so many ways to grow in this industry, grow in promoting yourself. I think a lot of it has to do with loving yourself and knowing that you should be proud of all the accomplishments. I find that a lot of the time I've overlooked or forgotten about a lot of my accomplishments throughout my career. And sometimes I'll just sit with myself and remember all of the amazing things that I did. And so, especially when I'm speaking with friends, for example, maybe not in the industry even, and they're so worried about the next chapter in their life. And I have to remind people, you have so many experiences that you've learned throughout your life, and remember what they are, remember your accomplishments, because even if it was in an industry that has nothing to do with public relations, it still there's so many things that you've learned that can be woven into this. It's important to use your work as a platform to learn and connect. There's many ways to grow, whether it's working in an agency and learning the ins and outs of how to work in that company culture. You can have your own company, you can promote yourself, you can promote clients. I think it's important for people to really think about doing what they love and what they believe in. So, I mean, I've when I first started in the industry, it was tough because I would take on clients and I would scratch my head and be like, I don't know, I don't love this product. I'm like, I feel like I'm lying to people when I'm putting it out to the world. And so that was a big thing for me as I moved forward in my career. And I would really gravitate towards people that I loved and that were so passionate and that I felt passionate about what they were doing. And whether that's exploring nonprofits or different things that you believe in, it's really important to align with brands or what you're working with that aligns with your values. The last thing too is just don't shy away from promoting yourself. Share your wins, speak at events, network, and submit all of the campaigns in the world for awards, because your success story is so worth telling. And I wish people would remember that more, because I'm starting to remember that more and more, and it's changing. It changes everything for you.
And how we can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at C_NO_. And my PR agency in New York City is Carie NYC, CARINYC.com. Other than that, I am always around. You can find me here and there. So yes.
We will definitely leave all your details under the show. And Carie, thank you again for sharing your knowledge. With 30 years professional experience, thank you so much for sharing your energy today with our show, What Everybody Wants to Know. And please, everybody who listened to us today, don't forget to put comment, like, of course, if you like this show, and maybe be open to sharing your ideas about the next topics and conversations of the show, and share this video with those who are in need of a good professional in PR industry, or maybe would like to study for PR art, which is more than possible with our dear Carie. And don't forget to download my self-help and self-love app with a revolutionary Irina AI, your 24/7 pocket counselor. Gemini near me is always there for you. Thank you. Your self-love and relationship expert, Iryna Wood. Learn to love yourself and trust the process.